Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest in our series of Pi webinars. It's great to have so many of you with us again today from Hong Kong, Malaysia, the US, London, here in rainy London. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about how technology can solve all our problems, but particularly as relates to admissions and then marketing within the higher ed capacity. So we are joined today by Lauri Elevant from Dream Apply, Andrea Garulli, University of Siena, Simone Ravaioli from Digitary, and we also have Jess Winters from University of Utrecht, who will be joining us momentarily. So first of all, I'd like to point out that we have questions at the bottom and polls we'd love you to answer as well. So please do ask questions as we go, because we want this to be as interactive as possible. I'm just going to mute Simone. He's making a strange noise. And yes, I'm going to go first. I'm going to ask everyone to say a few words about what they do and how technology has solved problems or not. But I must say that I think in admissions, I've realised talking about this topic, there's lots of quite archaic processes when it comes to admissions. So we're going to try and really unpick some of the problems in admissions and how technology can solve them. Lauri, over to you.
Hi, I'm just going to wait until the echo goes away. Am I the only one hearing the echo? Okay, it's gone. Okay, hi, I'm Lauri.
Hi, yeah, sorry, the echo has gone.
I'm one of the... Am I live?
Yeah.
Okay. Seems somebody has a microphone on and it's producing a lot of echo. It's not possible to talk. Okay. So I'm hearing myself, but I'll try to bear. So I'm Lauri. I'm one of the co-founders of Dreamply, and I'm currently responsible for the product development side of our work here. And we started this journey about 9 years ago when we had some really bright ideas about how admission work should be organized. Fast forward a few more years and we realized we were in a really complex problem area, and but our solutions appear to be producing pretty good results. And so far, about 250 universities have started to use Dreamply to their benefit, and I'd like to say that all of them have come with their own very special and interesting issues, some of which have turned into product improvements, some of them have turned into insights. And luckily for us, we've been able to take advantage of that. But in some cases, when we were not able to fix things ourselves, we have partnered up with other organizations that we believe have the best solution in this area, which is why I'm really happy to also have Digitary here today. So there is one topic that is difficult to ignore. You want to interrupt me?
No.
Okay. So there's one topic that's really difficult to ignore these days. That's the COVID-19 situation. So I won't talk very long about this, I promise. There is a thing called the Kubler-Ross Model, and it postulates 5 stages. There's denial, anger, bargaining, and ultimately depression and acceptance. So you might say that I might still be at the denial phase of things, but I firmly believe that we're in a place where, in terms of student enrollment in 2020, we need to be doing a lot more marketing, a lot more communication to keep successfully attracting and enrolling and receiving new students. At the same time, the costs per successfully enrolled students will definitely go up. And that is going to create a need for measuring the actual efficiency and the bang for the buck, so to speak, and not just in terms of clicks, but in terms of actual results, the new students. And of course, it pretty much has to happen online. So this is going to present some really unique challenges, and clearly some universities are better equipped than others in this regard. As for our customers, we have gone into a real overdrive in developing new marketing features in Dreamply. including lead management, Google Ads support, UTM parameters, agent tools, and better analytics. And all of this you can also read from our blog, so I won't go very deeply in that area. But it's not just advertising. Until the student is successfully enrolled, they should be considered as part of an organized communication funnel, receiving some information at every stage along their progress towards their studies. And unless you are dealing with really small numbers, we believe this needs automation to actually work reliably. So this is where we believe our product starts to shine.
And can I ask you, what did you do before DreamApply? Why did you come up with the idea in the first place? How did you realize the problem, I guess?
Well, actually, I was involved in another organization called Dream Foundation, which started its roots at the time where I come from Estonia, and other countries from the same background. We had some difficulties in actually gaining good education in some of those countries, and we thought it would be a really good idea if people can join their studies in Western European countries. And we started an organization, a foundation actually, to make this process more easy for the students. And consequently, we found out that apparently the biggest bottleneck was the universities, not the students. Often our documentation was not being handled very well. So we thought, hey, we have a good system to handle this, so why not package it up and offer to universities as well? So this is pretty much what we've been doing all along after that.
And would you describe yourself as a techie then? I mean, what did you study?
Well, actually, I studied very boring stuff about business and economics, but I consider myself a techie.
Right.
So that is a fact, I'm afraid.
That's good. No, we need a techie running, as a CTO running a tech platform, you need to be a techie.
Yeah, I guess so.
I want to move to Andrea next, who works at the University of Siena and is a professor and director of an engineering department. So he's going to talk to us about why he decided to work with DreamApply before we talk to Digitary, and Jess, who works at Utrecht, who doesn't work with DreamApply or Digitary, but does have a lot to say about marketing and the way it's going to change and how technology can help on that. I do want to hear from you as well, because I think I've certainly said, as I said, I've certainly come across a lot of people having pain points in the admissions process. So keen to hear from you as well on that. But Andrea, if we can come to you next, maybe you can talk to us from your perspective about why you decided you should use a platform to help students essentially apply to enroll with you at the University of Siena.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, there is a bit of feedback. There's a bit of feedback on your mic. You don't have the window open twice, do you? There's a bit of delay, I think, on the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is it?
Okay. I'm sorry, I've muted you. I think we need to come back to you. Do you have any? If you have any headphones or something, we'll come back to you. Let's go to Jess next. I'm just going to lose Andrea while hopefully he sorts the sound issue out. Jess, over to you first. So marketing, how technologized is it at University of Utrecht, and how synced up with admissions are you, or would you like to be?
Well, that's a good question and probably a long answer, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I think we're in the process of becoming a lot more digital in the marketing department. We're also in the process of getting more digital in the admissions part. We work closely with admissions, but we're in different departments. So for us, it's essential to have basically good relationships with our admissions team. And luckily that is the case. So we work together, but our systems are not yet talking to each other. That's also something that we're working on, that our CRM system actually can talk to our application system. And I can see DreamApply smile because that's not what we're doing yet. We're not talking to each other. So it's a bit difficult to connect the two and to streamline the process even more. So we still have a challenge there and some way to go. But on the marketing side, that's what I can talk about, not so much about admissions, because that's not my thing. We are obviously in this whole situation with COVID, we're now digitalizing everything. So all the offline things that we were doing, we are now doing online and more, which is a challenge also for domestic recruitment, as domestic recruitment is mainly offline. So now suddenly we have to organize online open days, maybe smaller, more hybrid offline online events. But that is a challenge. Luckily, we already had a few things that were digitalized. One of the things that we use is Unibuddy, the chat tool for students, which right now is coming in extremely handy, and we're very happy with it because it gives students still a chance to hear the authentic stories of current students, which is basically what we're aiming at, to get their voice out and not so much our voice, because I get paid to say that Utrecht is brilliant.
We have actually, we actually ran a webinar with Unibuddy, and we heard directly from other institutions saying that actually right now that's the best thing you can hear in terms of all the student queries.
Oh God, yes. Yes, absolutely.
But in terms of understanding which marketing techniques work the best, how do you manage that at Utrecht? I mean, do you have to just, in terms of seeing how the admissions come in and understanding what campaign yields what sort of volume of interest?
No, I'm going to be honest there and just say no, because we don't know. We don't know what works well and what doesn't work well. Obviously, we have a clue on what works well and what doesn't work. And that comes from different sources than the typical ROI and CRM and registration tools. But that is a problem that we cannot connect campaigns to specific enrollments. Something I would really like in the future, but that will take a while. But it's what we're working on.
Right.
And until then, it is what it is.
And so, Lauri, back to you on this one. I mean, this is obviously something that you advocate with Dream Apply. Do you think that's quite common? Is that something are you sort of flying the flag for synchronous pipeline of marketing to application? Do you think that's is it common that it's not aligned in a technology platform anyway? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, so I agree there. I think one of the main things to consider is establishing a common workflow, even like common tooling to some extent, with admissions and international office on one end, and also other stakeholders like marketing, communications, as well as academic evaluators from the departments, in the institutes, and even directorates. So both of those processes, parties need to have a way of communication, and this actually stems from our experience of setting up Dream Apply in various different universities. So we have customers from European countries, Japan, the Americas, Africa, other regions. So what we usually see is exactly that the main problems are not the technical ones, but they often are organizational. For example, is there a central admission office even? Sometimes that's not the case. Are the established processes even conducive of implementing automation at all? And so on. So what we usually do in that case is build something like this. That's like a process map of how work actually goes along. There's a whole bunch of those here. Like this is the first stage of actually talking to the university. So we often are the first one to start to really organize and make a picture out of what the admission process actually looks like, and then we make another picture of what we think it should look like. So this is the stage one, and I think the benefit is very obvious from there, that once you have this process going, and then marketing and admissions working together, you have immense benefits. So, for example, marketing can know until the very end what happened to their leads. Did they actually just ended up being, clicks, or were they eventually turned into students? And a lot of effort can obviously be wasted on producing leads that don't turn into students. And And this information is available to admissions, to even professors that are evaluating applications, and they know this lead didn't go anywhere. But does marketing know this? So what I believe is that there is no handoff from marketing to admissions. There is no magical moment where conversion from a lead to an applicant occurs. It's all the same thing.
Right. Now, I want to bring Simone in at this point. It's very interesting because you offer another level to the process, don't you? So another level of technology which can help solve another problem. So if you want to tell everyone about that, and we can talk about how we're weaving Digitary in, well, DreamApply now working with Digitary to add another layer of solution, I guess, into the process.
In essence, we try to lubricate the system to streamline global student mobility. And when it comes to international admissions, particularly, we help applicants, learners, to provide or share securely their academic documents into international applications to universities, integrating with admission platforms like DreamApply. And this is what we've done together. And in order for the learners or the applicants to have these documents, digital documents readily available,
Oh. I lost Simone, did you? Not just me then. The perils of being in Sardinia. Andrea, welcome back. Let's go back to Andrea.
Okay, hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's so much better. We'll have to come back to Simone.
Sorry for before, man.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in Sardinia. Let's not feel too sorry for him. But I think the Wi-Fi might have suddenly just phased out. We'll come back. Yeah, Andrea, welcome back. It'd be nice to know from a university perspective why you decided to work with DreamApply and what you were doing beforehand.
Okay, hi, my name is Andrea Garulli. As you said, I'm the head of the Department of Engineering and Mathematics. So we have these two different type of courses. And we decided to move to switch to English language all our master courses like in 2012. And the process finished in 2017. And so we needed to define a process for the enrollment of students from all over the world. Mm-hmm. And in the first 4 or 5 years, maybe we were a little bit ingenious, and we developed our own system, and we had a lot of problems because the experience of the student were broken in different parts, mm-hmm. not communicated between them, and also there was this problem that even if the website was, it was good from a technical point of view, the experience of the students was not so satisfactory. So we needed some professional tool for the students to feel always in the same environment from the first landing. So we use DreamApply also for marketing because all the information about the programs are there now. Mm-hmm. And we use it for all the process. And well, another reason was that the number of applicants in the first 5 years grew up to more than 3,000 in our department.
Wow.
And but most of the applications were of very low quality. And so it was really painful to examine all the documentation.
So you had no way of working out of those 3,000 which were bona fide and which were wasting your time?
Yeah, at the very end, only less than 2% were making the final enrollment.
Right.
The admission rate was very low, like 2.5%, and of those, less than 1/2 were actually inside the system at the very end. So after that, we inserted a very, very small fee, like 30 euros for the evaluation. Mm-hmm. And that was another benefit of using DreamApply because it allowed us to handle this in a professional way within the same environment. And well, last year, which was the first year we used DreamApply for all the courses, we had only, let me say, 500 applications, but the rate of acceptance was 30%, and the final rate of enrollment was 22%. And
wow.
the quality increased a lot because, of course, I mean, if you have to go through some steps and you have to submit your documents within a professional environment and you have to pay a little fee, only the real motivated students are engaged, and also there are a lot of benefits also on our side because we can check all the steps of the application, and we can communicate with the students, and all the communication remains inside the system. We can check which email has been sent, and there are different people that take care of different steps because emails can be sent from the international office or from the program office, and so we can check what everyone has said to the student in different steps of the process. So, of course, I mean, it's a professional tool, and we benefit from the fact that we don't have to worry of the integration of the different steps. That's the main benefit.
So you brought it all into one place. A quick question on the language. I know you did tell me before that you have a lot of master's courses in English, but is the DreamApply platform in English? Do you expect people who apply to be using English as a language, or could they use Italian?
No, of course they can use Italian, and we actually plan to use it also for the courses taught in Italian. And yes, we haven't prepared all the pages yet. So if you want to apply to, because we have just at the university we have just one bachelor course in English. All the other bachelors are in Italian.
Mm-hmm.
You can already use DreamApply to apply to these courses in Italian, but the landing page is in English. But we plan to translate everything. But of course, you can use any language that you prefer.
Right. And in terms of us, we're talking about sort of trying to integrate admissions process with marketing. So has it also helped inform you in terms of what marketing works for you and the programs? Yes, because we typically were using, and we are still using, the main website for marketing. We have a marketing section. Yeah.
But it's also difficult to keep track of the two websites and to keep the same information up to date. So now we completely divided, and we have for international students we use DreamApply, and for Italian students we use the main website. So it's completely we completely separated, and that worked very, very well for us.
Great. And you can see in terms of other platforms you might advertise your programs on, or can you see how they come into DreamApply if they don't come via your university website?
Yeah, we have some data. I mean, it's just 2 years that we use the DreamApply at the university level. Let me say approximately, I would say that 40% of the students, of the applicants, let me say, they first land on the university website because they are interested in the University of Siena for some reason, and then they are sent to DreamApply for all the relevant information. Another 40% get in touch with DreamApply at international university fairs. The University of Siena participates in a lot of these fairs, and in those occasions we convey information about that. And 20% are from some website in which the University of Siena has some advertising pages, like study portals, bachelor studies, things like that.
I see.
So that's, I think, approximately. And also there is a lot of word of mouth between students, because international students that have had a satisfactory experience the previous year, they will tell their friends at home, and typically during interviews, because in many courses we use DreamApply as the first step, and then we have interviews after first contact. And in the interviews they say, well, I have a good friend that had a good experience in Siena, also thanks to the enrollment process. Is, I think, pretty easy for the students.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. I'm sure we'll come back to you some questions. But I want to move over to Simone, who's back. Welcome back.
Hey.
So let's try and definitely get a little bit of chat about Digitary in case we lose you again. So in a nutshell, it's credentials, isn't it? It's essentially secure credentials, so you can know that a student has got their credentials because they are a Digitary student, and that's what you do. You use encrypted technology to prove somebody has a credential. So tell us a bit more about that and how you're working with DreamApply, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. I'm back. I was saying, hopefully you heard the first piece of what I was talking about, that universities, as part of their digital transformation journey, now issue their academic certificates documents digitally. And whether they are degree certificates, transcript or records, diploma supplements, any official document. And they use our technology, our platform, to issue them to learners in their wallet, in a digital wallet. And that stays with the student, the person, for life, for free. And that's where these applicants can share these credentials from in the context of international admissions. And so in a way, Digitary supports global student mobility by on the outbound flow, so by allowing universities to issue these official documents to learners, but also servicing learners in their journey when they apply for further studies. And so that becomes sort of an inbound flow into the universities. And so we like to think that graduation is no longer the end of the academic experience, but it's the beginning of the lifelong learning journey. And in this new non-traditional university context, or new normal, we'll see what that is, there's an expectations that learning will be happening at a more micro level, if you want, with micro credentials becoming more popular. And increasingly, this flow of graduating and enrolling will be probably more frequent throughout the course of a lifetime. And so we support that transformation by using secure technology, leveraging emerging tech, like digital credentials, some distributed architectures, and making sure that this is done with a learner-centric model in mind, and by respecting all the privacy regulations that exist in the different countries that we operate into. Yeah.
So are you hoping then that a student applying, let's assume there's a student applying to the University of Siena via DreamApply, when they have to prove their prior academic transcripts, essentially, they can just upload their Digitary passport documents, and then
as simple as that.
Simple as that.
As simple as that. And this is to some extent a discrete and small process within the wider international admission context, which starts with marketing and recruitment, clearly, but it's very painful. And we've observed that a lot of the friction and the time wasted, and to some extent decisions are at stake, depending on how easy it is to apply and to provide that documentation to your application. And so digitizing that process streamlines the administrative burden, ultimately fast tracks the applications, and in shorter time to get to an admission decision, or make a big difference when an applicant is probably applying to different universities, and that process is currently taking a lot of time and it's costly.
And how common is it right now, would you say, to have a university which is embracing digital credentials? I mean, how many students would be likely to have a digital transcript of what they've previously achieved?
I'd say that on the issuing side, so providing students with a digital version of a diploma is becoming popular. It's to some extent, it's gone mainstream, right? And like particularly there is an effect on this uptake also, given the recent circumstances. And yet universities are open to issue digitally, but the question is, how open are they to accept digital documents in the inbound flow? And there's a bit of a disconnect. And so some universities may preach that they are, I guess, digitally enabled, they can issue, but in the admission office, there's a bit of more of a concern, particularly when it comes to the credential evaluation piece. It's not just attaching a digital credential to the DreamApply application, but at times this requires a third-party credential evaluation agency to provide a recognition statement, which is, by the way, itself a digital credential as we see it, and should live inside a student digital wallet so that they can reuse those statements for other applications.
Great. Now, I mean, I know what Digitise want to achieve, and I think it's really fascinating. Andrea, I want to come back to you quickly, and then we're going to have questions. Thanks for asking your questions. I'm going to turn to them next. But Andrea, just to ask you, would you agree that that is one of the big painful points in the process is confirming the academic transcripts or the previous history? I mean, also there's English language learning. You might have to attest to the level. Would you say that's what slows everything down or has done in the past?
Yes, I definitely agree. Typical one problem we have is that there are a lot of, we have seen false certificates. So we have to check carefully, what you receive. And also, I totally agree with Simone that in public administrations, we are most still tied to the paper certificate at the input level. We are ready to provide at the output digital documents, but we are still bound to check the originals when we accept students. And so the process that Digitary would like to insert into the process, I think it is very, very useful. In perspective, at least. I see as a valuable add-on to the whole process. Yes.
Good, thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn to questions from you guys. Do keep them coming in. There's one that my colleague Jane asked, but I'm going to shoot past that, although it's got lots of votes. I will come back to that. I think this is a really interesting question from Ricky, which is, how do you guys get admissions officers or universities to use your platform? So this is really for you, I think, Lauri, and maybe Simone too. Aren't there challenges with universities preferring applications to go via the university's own platform, or problems with the universities having huge numbers of courses? So, Lauri, I'm going to come to you first on that.
Okay. Well, what we call the setup process or the onboarding process is the most challenging times for us, as we are supporting the university through the process. But also for the university, it can be traumatic when you have to change the way you work. And as I said, sometimes you have to organize within the university first to actually start using the system. And what we have seen, for example, in some universities, that the work that they did a few years back, let's say, already organized them for the current situation. So, for example, it was pretty difficult to figure out how to change the processes 2 years ago, but now they never even noticed anything. Everybody just went home and continued working. So that said, I think we have to look at two layers there. First is the process, that is what we can help with. And secondly is the actual technical implementation. And the technical implementation, what I firmly believe in, what I've seen from many years of doing these kinds of projects, is there are two things that are always good to keep in mind. Is that first, any system you implement is going to be no better than the information quality that you put into there. So this is why we need to have all stakeholders of the organization on board, because information is born sometimes in the university. And so the information quality is essential, otherwise the system is useless. And secondly, what we have seen is that the golden rule that we sometimes say is that first you make things out of little straws, then you make them out of wood, then you try to carve them into stone. And this seems to work really well. It's a critical lesson. Millions of euros have been spent on building pie-in-the-sky magical systems, often from scratch. And there is a research, I think, from Standish Group that says that IT projects with budgets bigger than $1 million, they have somewhere between 50% chance of success. So those are really depressing numbers. And so our little approach, this scaredy cat, low risk approach, is to build systems step by step. And the Dreamply allows that to happen because everything is sort of point and click. You can start with a very simple system, very simple process, then build on that, build more automation, build out your processes, add payments, for example, make changes. And you don't have to bother IT department for making many of those things. So that is the low risk approach I think we would recommend. And I also wanted to chime in a little bit about what Andrea said about the numbers. And we have actually went through some statistics across the entire corpus of Dreamply users. And we've seen that to admit successfully 100 students on average across all the systems from various universities with various different backgrounds and processes, apparently you need about 1,300 applications to go through. So that's 1 in 13 is
Wow.
is the correct number. So that's quite a lot of applications. So you need automation. Otherwise, you will be doing a lot of work. But on the other hand, if you don't have automation, another statistic says that if you send, let's say, your positive offer within 3 weeks versus 3 months, the success rate of this applicant actually ending up accepting this offer you made is going down into half. So 3 weeks versus 3 months, that's twice worse.
And do you have, and would you share any metrics on what your typical application process wait might look like? Because I have heard very, very sort of huge differentiations in how long a student might be waiting to hear if their application is successful.
Well, we can't speak for any customers specifically. What we have seen is the general statistics of like the relative terms. Like I said, if you wait 3 months, you will lose half the students. But in general, I think what we suggest to our users is try to keep it at least within a couple of weeks. That is like the maximum sensible point. Until that point, the graph starts to go down dramatically. I think the better benchmarks are like 24 hours, but in some cases, in some universities, depending on their regulations, that might not be attainable.
I should actually at this point nod to our poll, so do keep voting. But one of the questions I've asked is, do you experience frustrations around slow application turnaround times? And I've kept that sort of open question because I know we have lots of institutions, but also lots of education agencies joining us today. But I should say that 77% have said yes. So that would suggest that there are still lots of slow processes out there. Okay, let's go to another question. Okay, most popular question, let's go to this. How do you communicate with applicants throughout the admissions process? So I'm going to go to, well, I guess Andrea first, and I'm also going to bring Jess in. I'm going to lose you momentarily, Simone, but to know how you communicate. I mean, I guess you can manage that through the process with Dreamply, but how many interactions do you have and how do you communicate? If you could talk to that a little bit, that would be great.
Well, it depends. If the student is smart enough, we don't have to communicate that much because the process is very streamlined, and then the students do not require that much more information. But if they send emails, we can answer directly within the system. And typically there are students that ask questions about several aspects of the university life. And then, of course, the most important interaction is when we send the final letter. We are trying to improve in terms of the response times. As you said before, it's important. Sometimes it takes time because we in some courses we have interviews. But also this was a problem because we had to communicate all the times of the interviews and when the interview was going to take place, what were the subjects of the interviews, and now everything is done through the platform. But that's the typical question they ask. Once they get to know that there is an interview, they immediately write emails saying, "Well, what are you going to ask me?" And then we can use the internal email to send. So we have a lot of standard emails,
right,
that we can send massively to group of students. and then we can write personalized emails for specific problems asked by the students.
And would you ever use WhatsApp or any sort of SMS-based technology, or was it pretty much email-based?
I think it's email-based. I don't know, because we have an office, the international place, that also gets in touch with the students in several different ways. So maybe at their level, I mean, the students can interact also in different ways, but clearly it's preferable to keep every communication within the system because we keep a memory of that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I'm going to come to you, Jess, but first I want to note that in the chat column, JG, and I think that is Jess Guyver, I might be wrong, but I think that's you, Jess, says that 48 hours on complete application being received, they aim to have a decision offered, and they have a conversion rate of 40%. I think that's pretty impressive. Jessica, over to you. What about Utrecht? How do you communicate with people, or do you leave that to admissions? I mean, once they've been, or do you continue to interact with them from a marketing perspective once they've got an offer?
We continue to talk to them as marketing department, but also the admissions office talks to them, and also the faculties and the programs talk to them. So there's a lot of talking. And we use several channels. We use the newsletters, we use email, but we also use WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. We use our Facebook groups. We use our Chinese social media. So there's lots and lots of channels that we use to talk to our students.
And do you actually sort of count? Because I've come across other companies. There are other companies which offer to sort of outsource the conversion part of the process, but I know they sort of count how many interactions they would have. Do you have that sort of information, or could you, if you needed it, could you tell how many times you've...
For some of the channels, yeah, for some of the channels, obviously not for all of the channels. For example, the Facebook groups, they don't count the chats, but Unibuddy counts the chats. WhatsApp, we have that in a system, so that is counted.
Okay.
Although we can't keep that information too long due to GDPR, so it gets tossed out at a certain point too.
Okay, but interesting. So both marketing and admissions keep the conversation up, which sounds very good.
No, not just us. It's several departments, which makes it also very confusing for students because they get several different emails and several with different kinds of information, using different tones of voice. So that's a process that we're trying to streamline now as we speak this year, but we still have a long way. We're a very decentralized university, and I think that most older universities tend to be on the decentralized side, and most of these universities will face the same problems that we have. Luckily, we have a good reputation that helps.
Yeah, good. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Next question, which companies or solutions are the main rivals to the Dream Apply platform? So let's ask that, because I also am interested, Lauri. I mean, when you approach universities, institutions to work with, I think you work with business schools as well, I mean, different types of provider, are sometimes they surprised about your solution? Do they sometimes think, oh, I didn't know there was a solution for that? Or are you pitching against other types of company like you? I don't actually know, so it'd be interesting to know.
What we believe, we see all the time is our biggest competitor is often the university's own IT department. That sounds funny, but this is always the case because the problem sounds far too trivial sometimes to just let's make a web form and then those guys just will build something quickly. It turns out it's not that easy, and then the problems and issues, they start evolving throughout the time. And then at some point the budget runs out, or the IT department's interest runs out. And I think what we often see is very much those in-house systems that have lived through their useful life at some point, and the university starts looking for a solution. So, of course, we're not the only provider of admission solutions. So we have competitors as well, who we frequently meet at tender discussions and so on. But all in all, I think the main thing is don't invent your own admission system, if I could say something. It's more difficult than it appears. It's very nuanced to get it actually right and then test it throughout years of actual admissions, because you only get one chance per year to test out your ideas.
That's true. I would come across to you, Andrea. I see you nodding. Well, I know you told me actually, didn't you, that given that you teach engineering and IT, you felt like initially you should solve the same problem in-house initially.
Yes, absolutely. We did exactly what Lauri said you shouldn't do. We developed our own recruiting system, and actually it worked nicely for some time, because at the beginning we were considering only the very basic issues, and but then the problem becomes more and more complex. And at the beginning we were taking care only of our department. Then other departments asked to join, and they had the different specifications. And changes were always required at every time, and our technicians were always working at the system. And at the very end, when we came to the problem of asking a little fee, we couldn't manage that, because we are not allowed as a department to ask money from the students, and it was really, really too complex. And then our IT division started looking at professional solutions, and they come up with an apply. And so I'm happy of having developed my own system, just because I fully understood which were the problems.
Right.
And we finally came to the decision that we couldn't handle all of them in-house. That's the story.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. I'm going to come to another question asked by Thomas Alexander, and he asks, what are the implications for consultants and recruiters? Is this really a new paradigm? Explain, full stop. So this is an interesting one, because obviously, Jess, I'm going to come to you first on this. You obviously work with a network of education agencies as well, I presume, and I suppose I'm interested in knowing whether I know you don't work with Dream Apply, but whether you would see this as offering something useful if you were to offer a sort of open-facing platform which you could lead agents to. Would you think that would be a solution, or do you think it's just the same as offering them your current website with international office facing? I hope I've answered the question right, but I think it's from a sort of education agency perspective, does this offer them some quick hacks? Or
well, obviously everything that makes our life easier is nice, and at the same time implementing a completely new system and doing away with our current system is not a decision that's easily made, because the impact is enormous, not just for us but also for the faculties and all the people that work there, work with the system. That's not a handful of people, that's hundreds of people. So we don't make that decision easier. But I think it would be useful. But this is one of the things that we're doing now, is trying to make the systems that we have talk to each other and try to find a solution there. That's probably for us a quicker way of solving things than coming up with a complete new system. Mm-hmm. And as the question on agents, there too, there are several solutions to fix that problem. We can make a website that's specifically designed for agents that you can, lock off. So it's just agents that can get in there, or use the intranet for that and give them rights to that. So those are, and we don't work with agents. So for us at this moment, well, we're starting to, but with a very, very small and select group. So if there's any agents here, please don't email. Because it's one of the things that it's one of the things that we have difficulty implementing in the university. We're very traditional and old university, so the mere mention of commercial sales marketing tends to drive people up the wall. So we're careful with that, and with agents, that's one of the things that we have to be very careful with.
Okay, thank you, Jess. And I'm going to say goodbye to you now and bring Simone back in.
Maybe, Maybe there's one thing I would like to add, and that we're not in it for the numbers of international students. So we don't have a goal to reach there. We do have goals, obviously. We try to get the best quality of students. And I do notice that we are having issues finding providers that offer us that kind of help. Every provider offers us more students, but I don't want more students. I want better students. We're a top 50 university and I want to have top 50 students. Simple as that. So if there are any providers in this conversation,
I'm sure there may well be.
We're aiming for.
You may well get some emails.
All right.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lauri, I want to combine this with another question which I've been seeing and come to you on this. Miriam Rowe asks, has there been any feedback from agents on using DreamApply for their overseas applications? Is there a way for agents to view the status of their applications? So I'm just going to timestamp these questions if you're watching on repeat. But yeah, Lauri, do you enable education agents? Obviously, they are part of the solution, right, Jess? Do you enable education agents to use DreamApply or not? Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have self-service portal built into DreamApply for agents or advisors in general, and it frequently comes in useful for advisors of different levels of access. For example, we have identified there are actually what we believe 4 different kinds of agents from the perspective of the university. First of all, there are those that fully represent the students, and they will be given the highest access. And then there are also those that should only read the applications as they are being submitted by the actual student. And then there are those that only get limited amount of information. And then there are those that only get the numbers, the statistics. So they shouldn't have any access. And in post-GDPR world, this is crucial to get right, depending on what kind of a contract agreement you have with those agents and how much they are able to protect the data, the private data of those applicants. So we have like 4 different layers of granularity there for different kinds of agents. And for example, an incognito level, what we call, they only get the statistics. Those agents are, of course, happy that they know exactly how many applications have been accepted by the institution, for example, or how many of those were failed, but they don't get the information of who failed. And those that actually are able to manage their own applicants, they get a totally different experience. They are as if they are the applicant. So they right. Take all the responsibility. So it's a very complex topic to go into.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Simone, welcome back. We've got another question here asked by Jacques Bicondu. It's a fairly simple question. How do institutions verify the credentials of overseas students? But I'll come to you because you might have a good understanding of how if they don't work with Digitary, how do they verify typically? How is that process run? You might have as good an understanding as anyone on this.
Oh, this is a great question because this allows me to just really bring in a reflection that does boil down to really practicing what's in the policies and what really is supporting innovation here. So it goes back to trust. Currently, institutions verify students in different ways, right? I mean, and they either rely on third parties, verification agencies, and there is typically, so I can refer to the anti-canaric network here in Europe, or they could have evaluators internally in their admission office that they do this as a profession, or they can trust the learners that are when they are providing digital documents through a secure channel. And I think this is where the problem is, that as much as the policies, the overarching policies like the UNESCO Global Recognition Convention is in place, the technology is ready. Cryptography and the networks are there, but practice is still lagging behind. Because what would it take for an admission officer to trust a document that comes directly from an applicant? Whether even if it is digitally signed, it comes through a secure pipeline, that practice is still behind. And we need some bold institutions, and the ones here are probably forward-looking in that terms, to really empower this learner-centric revolution, or in tech terms, this is known as self-sovereignty, if you would. And so this learner centricity is really now boiling down to the recipient end, to accept, to trust that students are now the primary source of truth, if they are leveraging technology. And I think that's where the point is today, and that's the moonshot that we're really trying to support in
Frozen again. Good. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because I think we've got the majority of that. Next question is, what AI feature does DreamApply plan to implement, if any? A quick one here for you, Lauri. Do you use AI at all?
AI is such a contrived term. We use some tools with machine vision. Mm-hmm. That's, of course, that's not the neural net, but it's machine vision. We use that to look at the uploaded passport copies. If somebody uploads an ID card passport copy, we look for the MRZ on there, and we use some pretty advanced routines there to figure out the actual contents of the passport and cross-check it against the application contents, and then find out, for example, expired passports as they are being uploaded as a courtesy to the applicant. They might actually need the passport when they go to study. So this is one example. The rest is like, we are an information system. As I said, the main quality comes from the quality of the information and the user interface flexibility. So at this time, no blockchain inside DreamApply, and also no neural nets so far.
Okay, no, thank you. Because there is another question which I also have now answered, which is which processes are automated or digitized by DreamApply. So I guess you've answered that in terms of passport checking.
Well, we have automation for pretty much everything. There's a built-in rules engine which actually can be triggered by various events happening in the system. And then you can put filters. Let's say somebody uploads an application document, and then you can put the filter that this application is meant for this department, and this applicant is from this country. Maybe they need an extra task, or maybe they should get a notification, or we should freeze the application. There's a bunch of actions you can. So it's a trigger conditions actions sort of rules engine where you can build any kind of process. And of course, we have tools to generate letterhead documents automatically. We have tools for making video interviews, like pre-recorded video interviews based on various scenarios, and so on. So there's a bunch of stuff that we can automate, not even talking about payments and things like that. And there's also, of course, the API that you can use to enhance DreamApply, plus, of course, the integrations that we have to other systems. So there's a bunch of things you can automate, but as I said, that's not the main concern going forward. The main concern is getting started and getting on board and starting this point-and-click journey, through the different options later as you understand how the mission flows.
Actually, we do the other way around, because we launched the program in artificial intelligence, so we use DreamApply to recruit students for artificial intelligence.
I've got one more quick question for you, Lauri, and before we have time to sum up, I think that lots of people have voted for this, which is, why is DreamApply a better solution than Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, and SAP? Now, you might not be able to do justice to that question in 1 minute, but maybe you could explain how you differ from some of the bigger platforms, I guess.
Yeah, this is a very big question. Of course, as I said, there are different ways you can reach the same solution. Some of them are more expensive, some of them are more time-consuming. I think one of the better points here is with DreamApply, our shortest setup time was 1 week. So going from meeting university, having a requirements gathering meeting, understanding the process, and actually having the first student arrive in the system. So this is, I think, where we differ. We are able to very quickly come on board and build out the system that actually starts working from right away.
Thank you. Good. I have one final question. Thanks, everyone, for staying with us. My last question before we wrap up is just whether we think coronavirus will force universities? I mean, universities are in the news every week in terms of international student enrollments being threatened. So the question is, do you guys think, from your perspective, there's going to be a focus on efficiency and results-centric processing? So less traveling to recruit, more focused on ROI in terms of marketing? And then is there going to be a focus, I guess the question to you, Lauri, is do you think people will be more open to talking to you about speeding up that admissions process? Andrea, do you think people are going to be asking you to recruit more international students on the same budget? I mean, interested to hear a sort of final thought from you guys. Lauri, do you want to go first?
Okay. I think data is king, as always, but right now more than ever. You need good data to actually make good decisions. And good data is not how many clicks you got. Good data is how many students one or the other activity actually brought. And, if we were talking, good students are the ones that matter, not the number of documents you receive. So that I believe is the main driver.
Andrea, what about you? Last point from University of Siena?
Well, I think Jessica had a good point when he said that they are looking for good students rather than high numbers. Basically, that's the reason one of the reasons we decided to introduce the Dream Apply. I mean, not to get less applications, but to get better application. That's what I think everyone looks for. I think COVID-19 will create some problems because now students, are very doubtful about what to do. Because the rules for moving from one country to another are evolving day by day. So it's difficult for students today to make a decision. So the number of applications didn't go down this year. So we got almost the same number of applications, but we have lots of questions about students. What if I don't get the visa, or what will happen? And I don't think it has really to do with the marketing process or the way that the enrollment is handled. It's about the message that as a country or as a European system we are able to spread all over the world, that we really would like that students will continue to move, because it's a value. One of the reasons we switched to the English language is because it's a value to have students from all over the world.
Yeah,
that's the main idea.
Yeah, that's a really nice point to end on. Simone, you have 30 seconds if you'd like to add one more thing about how coronavirus might change the way people approach the work they do in higher ed and in education globally.
Yeah, I think it's no longer an issue of technology. I think the right organizations are already leveraging it. I think there is work to do on practice. I think universities should have the courage to take the lead on this and challenge some of the established way of doing things, and that will eventually enable this ecosystem effect to be put in place that ultimately benefits the applicants. And that is one of the focus that I think we should keep. At least at Digitary, we're big on adding value to them. And partly that's what the relationship that we have with Dream Apply is really aiming to do. And so we're excited about this. This is new and it's breaking some new grounds, and we look forward to scale it more. And so if there's anyone here interested in the call, make sure they reach out to either Lauri or myself, and let's figure this out.
Great, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for your time. I think it's been a fascinating hour spent exploring this topic, and we look forward to seeing you all again on another Pi webinar. Meanwhile, thanks for joining, and goodbye.
Thank you.